Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have a few updates to share about Donald Trump. So first up is news that Deadbeat Donnie cannot secure a bond to pay his $464 million judgment. That was, of course, from the New York fraud trial. Trump, as you all know, he wants to appeal that ruling, but he has to put the full judgment plus interest and penalties into basically an escrow account so that he can go do that, so he can appeal it. Well, the so-called billionaire can't come up with the money. According to a new court filing from Trump's legal team, they've reached out to 30 different companies through 4 separate brokers, and no one is willing to lend him this money. The attorneys told the court that obtaining the bond money is a, quote, practical impossibility. And then they went on to say that they've, quote, spent countless hours negotiating with one of the largest insurance companies in the world. Evidently, these surety companies won't accept real estate as collateral. They want cash, or they said cash equivalents, according to Trump's team. So they said things like marketable securities. And Trump is going to have to pay a lot of money to secure this bond because the filing says that the companies, quote, require collateral of approximately 120% of the amount of the judgment, which would total about $557 million. In addition, sureties would likely charge bond premiums of approximately 2% per year with 2 years in advance, an upfront cost of over $18 million. And Trump can't get that $18 million back. They said even if he wins his appeal, he is not entitled to a refund of that bond premium. So Trump attorneys are arguing, oh, he shouldn't have to pay the bond at all. They're trying to convince the court that although Trump can't afford to pay the bond himself, he's good for it. They're saying, you know, he has plenty of assets. These assets can be sold. If he loses the appeal, it's not like he doesn't have it or he's going to burn through it. Trump attorneys wrote, quote, defendants' real estate holdings, including iconic properties like 40 Wall Street, Doral, Miami, and Mar-a-Lago, greatly exceed the amount of the judgment. Such assets are impossible to secrete or dispose of surreptitiously, leaving the plaintiff effectively secured during the pendency of an appeal. So these surety companies aren't willing to accept Trump's properties as collateral for a loan, but he wants the state of New York to essentially accept them as collateral for the judgment. Really? There's a reason the surety companies won't accept that as collateral. Because how do you enforce it? Right? It takes a long time to force someone to sell their assets and to get them all out. Even after you sell it, the person can just refuse to leave. And then you have a hard asset sitting there that you have to do something with. It's not like you take the property and, oh, okay, there's your money. No, now they have to go and sell it. There's the other issue that Trump just took out $91 million. He took out a $91 million bond just about a week ago to cover the judgment in the E. Jean Carroll case. He has to pay that back at some point, unless he wins his appeal, which is highly unlikely. But he is spread thin. I mean, you know, how many properties can they take and sell and make all this money? So anyway, he has until March 25th to come up with this money for the New York judgment. Unless an appeals court issues a stay on Judge Engoron's decision, that is the drop dead date. So then the New York Attorney General can start seizing Trump's assets. So as of March 26th, she can start seizing assets. Like I said, it's not as easy as it sounds, though, right? You've got tenants in some of these properties. In regard to Mar-a-Lago, Trump is in there himself. You know, how do you get him out once you seize it? I mean, we saw how hard it was to get him out of the White House. How hard is it going to be to get him out of Mar-a-Lago? And then in the meantime, he's racking up $600,000 in interest every single week. That's how much it amounts to. There's a 9% required annual interest amount for the state of New York. So, hashtag sad in all caps. And Trump supporters, they tried to help him. This is another hashtag sad story. A MAGA fan who's very wealthy, she created a GoFundMe page to try to help raise money to cover Trump's judgment. It basically stalled out. It was going strong for about a month. It has now basically stalled out at $1.3 million. So you tried. This is like the Simpsons gif where he has the cake that says you tried and he throws it in the trash. That's how I feel. Anyway, as it turns out, average Americans are not that psyched to help out a billionaire pay his debts. What do you know? So Trump also got some bad news in recent polling. According to an Ipsos poll that was commissioned by Politico, more than 1/3 of independent voters said that they'd be less likely to support Trump if he's convicted in his upcoming hush money trial. And 50% of all poll respondents already believe that Trump is guilty in this New York hush money case. That figure notably included 54% of independents. That is a crucial voting bloc for Trump and Biden. So 54% of independents think he's guilty. Unfortunately, as I'm sure you guys have all heard, that trial has been delayed, possibly 30 days, maybe even longer, because there's new evidence that the District of New York, Southern District of New York, sat on all this time. They just recently delivered thousands and thousands of pages to the Manhattan District Attorney. It had to do with Michael Cohen's conviction and his prosecution for this whole case. We don't know why it took them so long. But anyway, this trial will happen before the summer. This judge is not one that's going to drag this out. The only thing that might stop it is if the Supreme Court makes a ruling that's favorable to the prosecutors in the coup case, then maybe they might, defer to that judge and that trial and hold off on this one. But anyway, there was more bad news for Trump in this poll because 70% of the respondents disagree with him on the question of presidential immunity. 70% believe that presidents should be held accountable for their crimes. And these results right here that you're seeing on the screen, this should terrify Trump the most. If you're listening on the podcast, what I'm sharing is an image created by Ipsos, and it shows the breakdown by party for each of Trump's upcoming trials. So they asked, based on each trial, do you think he's guilty? What do you think of this case? Blah, blah, blah. As you would expect, it shows a huge gap between Democrats and Republicans as to whether or not they think he's guilty in each case. But what I find most notable and intriguing is how independents view each case. In regard to both the hush money case and the attempted coup case, 54% of independents said, yes, Trump is guilty. Only 19 and 21% respectively say, no, he's innocent. And then I assume the remaining percentage, they probably offered them an option like, oh, I'm not sure, I have no idea. In the classified documents case, 58% of independents say he's guilty and only 16% said he's innocent. And then the final one they asked about was the Georgia RICO case. 53% of independents said, yes, he's guilty. Only 20% think he's innocent. When I look at polling like this, I cannot believe that Trump has a chance of winning. I mean, when you combine the independents with the nearly 90% of Democrats who think he's guilty, then you add in somewhere between 12 and 16%, according to these polls, of Republicans who say, yes, he's guilty. It seems unfathomable that he could win. But, then again, we have to remember there are some people who, even if he is guilty, they will still try to find a way to justify their decision to vote for him. Because, liberals so bad, liberals evil, leftists, they're all evil, hateful people. And, oh gosh, they want to help people and give people money to live on and give them free childcare and free health care. Ooh, they're so bad. Awful. Shame. Anyway, and then this was also very telling. Although 59% of all poll respondents said that Trump should stand trial before this year's election, for the attempted coup at least, only 26% of Republicans were included in that figure. So here's how I read that. About 3/4 of Republicans aren't sure that their boy is innocent. In my opinion, based on what I'm looking at, this is what it tells me. 3/4 of Republicans are concerned that Trump is guilty, that they know he's guilty, that he did try to commit a coup, and they don't want him to be held accountable. Because if they truly believed he was innocent, they'd want him to go to trial. They'd want him to go prove it. If they honestly believed he did nothing wrong, they would want him to face all of these juries and to be exonerated prior to the election. So they know damn well he is guilty, and they just don't care. And that says so much about them. So anyway, I will let you know when I hear more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like this video, share it with everyone you know, become a subscriber if you have not, become a donor if you possibly can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.